June 6, 1944. But the jet you are hearing is not from 1944. It is LiL TAB, an F-22 pilot on what was supposed to be a routine NATO live fire mission.
Yeah, routine. 1 second, I'm tracking drones over the range, and the next, the sky rips open in front of my jet.
You see it right here on screen. B-17s, German fighters, and a wall of flak. That is the moment your entire squadron gets pulled through the black hole.
We pop out in the middle of this bomber stream. No data link, no GPS, just World War II all around us. First thought in my head was, do not let those bombers fall.
So you lock in on the German fighters and the flak batteries below.
Yes, different century, same mission. Protect the package and get everyone home.
What did it actually feel like in the cockpit the moment you were sucked into that black hole? Like the universe hit pause and then yanked us forward. The sky folded in on itself, all my instruments went insane, and for about 3 seconds I was sure I was dying. Then suddenly it was daylight again, and I was staring straight at D-Day.
Unconfirmed by a live source, of course, says that heavy fighting is taking place between the Germans and invasion forces on the Normandy Peninsula, about 31 miles southwest of Le Havre. Another bulletin, also from Berlin Radio and unconfirmed, says the British-American landing operation against the western coast of Europe from the sea and from the air over the entire area between Cherbourg and Le Havre, a distance of about 60 miles. I repeat, there is no information.
General quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
So the B-1 was dispatched to take out these bunkers and protect the U.S. Navy ships and assault teams hitting Omaha Beach. What you are looking at is a B-1 Lancer, a long-range supersonic bomber from the 21st century, lined up on German fortifications from 1944.
Charlie, Oscar, November.
These concrete bunkers were built to withstand British and American firepower, naval shells, artillery barrages, and high explosive bombs, while their 105mm cannons and 50 caliber machine guns tore into the beaches.
The B-1 is basically a flying sledgehammer. We feed it coordinates, and the JDAMs walk down the line of bunkers one by one.
You can see it here, howitzer positions and machine gun nests all zeroed in on the ships and landing craft.
We knock out most of them, but a few survive the first wave. Those are the ones we will have to finish the hard way.
Before the Navy fighters and escorts can get to work, somebody has to declaw the German flak. Down there are the anti-aircraft positions the Germans used to cover this sector. Light and medium flak, small artillery, rapid-fire guns all stitched together into a wall of fire over the sand and water.
The B-17s hate that stuff, so we send in a jet that does not care. The A-10 rolls in low, finds the muzzle flashes, and solves the problem with one weapon, the Tannin.
That cannon is the GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm rotary gun so big the A-10 was basically built around it. Roughly 70 rounds a second, armor-piercing shells, and a firing run that sounds like the sky is tearing open.
From the cockpit, it is simple math. I put the pipper on the flak pit, squeeze a short burst, and watch the tracers walk straight through the position. The gun does the rest.
Every time the Avenger talks, one more German anti-aircraft site goes quiet. Each silenced gun is one less threat to the ships, the landing craft, and the bombers overhead.
We are carving a safe corridor. Once these flak nests are gone, the Navy F-18s can move in low to finish the bunkers the B-1 left standing, while the F-15s and F-22s push higher to hunt the Bf-109s, still trying to rip into the bomber stream.
Right now, you are seeing classic World War II air combat. BF-109s chasing B-17s, trying to cut them apart before they reach their target. Fast, agile fighters versus big, heavy bombers loaded with guns and bombs. Those German pilots know exactly what they are doing. They slide in behind the formation, out of the worst of the defensive fire, and start sawing at the bombers with cannon and machine gun bursts.
Yeah, the BF-109 was not built to be pretty. It was built to get up there fast, climb hard, and put cannon shells into anything with a star or roundel on it. Against the B-17, they aim for engines and the cockpit, make it blind or make it fall. What they do not know is that there is an F-22 Raptor sitting quietly behind them just outside their bubble of awareness. The BF-109s are flying like it is 1944. My jet is thinking like it is the 21st century. Stealth, sensor fusion, data links. My picture of the fight is crystal clear, and theirs is just what they can see out of the canopy. So you are essentially invisible to them? To a 1944 eyeball? Pretty much. The F-22 is built to hide from modern radars. So to a BF-109 pilot, I'm just a faint shape in the haze, if he even looks back in exactly the right place. By the time he realizes something is wrong, he is already in my weapons envelope.
Field 1, engaging bandit at Bulls 238 for 18 at 6,000.
Walk us through this first engagement. You are behind several BF-109s here, closing in. I come in high and a little offsets, staying out of their prop wash and their field of view. I am using my senses to track the whole group, but when I go to weapons, I keep it simple. Aim 9 first. Why a Sidewinder instead of the radar missile? Because the Aim 9 is a heat-seeking missile. Those BF-109s are basically flying heat sources. No warning tone, no radar spike, nothing. They do not even have time to react. All they see is a flash and a fighter tending into debris. From their perspective, it is like the sky suddenly decided to pick one of them and delete him. Later in the sequence, you switch from missiles to the cannon. Why?
Partly to conserve missiles, partly because we are in tight now. Once I'm inside gun range, the cannon is faster, more precise, and there is less chance of a missile getting confused by all the chaos.
That is the 20mm gun on the F-22?
Yeah, an internal 20mm Vulcan cannon in the right-wing root. It spins up fast, throws a dense stream of rounds, and it is stabilized so I can fire even while pulling G.
What you are seeing now is the F-15C Eagle. Its job is simple. Clear the BF-109s out of this airspace so the B-17s and the ships can breathe. Back in 1944, Allied escorts were fast for their time, but they were still prop-driven fighters. Now, imagine dropping in a twin-engine air superiority jet built from the ground up to win these exact kinds of fights. The F-15C carries powerful radar, long-range missiles, heat-seeking missiles, and a 20mm cannon. It climbs faster, flies higher, and accelerates harder than anything the Germans could even imagine. For people watching this, how does the F-15 change the problem the BF-109s were trying to solve?
The BF-109 pilots, trained to fight bombers and their escorts at visual range, they are looking for shapes in the sky, contrails, sun glintos wings. The F-15 does not play that game. It finds them with radar first, often long before any 109 pilot realizes he is being hunted.
So the Eagle sees the fight before the BF-109 even knows there is a fight.
Exactly. The F-15's radar can look down into the clutter, track multiple targets, and sort who is who. From that high perch, the Eagle pilots can pick which 109s are closest to the bombers and engage them first.
Focus to the weapons the F-15C is using in this kind of scenario. You will typically see a mix of radar-guided and heat-seeking missiles plus the internal gun. Against 1944 fighters, even a basic radar missile is overkill. They have no warning systems, no countermeasures, nothing. The Eagle can fire from beyond visual range or close in and use heat seekers that lock onto those hot piston engines. If any BF-109s survive that and get in close, the 20mm cannon finishes the job. So when we see an F-15 slide across the screen here and BF-109 start dropping out of the sky in the background, that is the radar and missiles doing their work. Yeah. From the BF-109 cockpit, it just feels like chaos. Fighters exploding, wingmen vanishing, but from the F-15's perspective, it is controlled. Track, lock, fire, move to the next target.
We have talked about the Bf-109, the F-15, and the A-10. But this jet right here, the F-22 Raptor, is something else entirely. If you dropped any fighter into 1944, this is the one that would rewrite the rulebook the fastest. For people watching, what makes the F-22 so different from everything else in the sky?
The short version? Stealth, sensors, and raw performance all wrapped into one airframe. The Raptor is built to see first, shoot first, and not be seen until it is too late. In this world of Bf-109s, I am basically a ghost with claws. Let's start with stealth. These Bf-109 pilots are flying with nothing but their eyes and a radio. What does that mean when a stealth jet shows up? It means they never get a fair warning. The F-22 is shaped and coated to scatter radar energy, and it keeps its weapons inside internal bays so it stays clean and hard to detect. In 1944, there is no radar that can meaningfully see me as a fighter. There are no missiles that can lock me, and no radar warning receivers in those cockpits. To them, I am just an odd shadow in the distance, right up until something explodes.
Let's talk pure flight performance. How does the F-22 stack up against a Bf-109, or even other modern fighters?
Against a 109, it is not a contest. The Raptor is supersonic, can supercruise without afterburner, and climbs and turns with thrust vectoring nozzles that let me point the nose wherever I need it. The 109 is working hard just to stay with the bombers. I can dive through their formation, take my shots, and rocket straight back up to altitude before they can even start a turn. Even against modern jets, the F-22 is built to own the vertical. High thrust to weight, big control surfaces, and vectoring give me the ability to dump speed, pivot, and repoint the jet in ways that are very hard to match. Energy in the bank, nose authority on demand, that is how you win an airfight. Weapon systems.
What are you bringing to this 1944 party?
I have radar-guided missiles for long range, heat seekers for closer work, and that internal 20mm cannon, but when things get personal. All of it lives inside the jet until I am ready to fire, which keeps my stealth profile low. Against Bf-109s, I can quietly track them, open the bay doors for a moment, launch and close back up before they even know a missile exists. If I choose to go to guns, the cannon puts out a tight stream of rounds that a WW2 airframe simply cannot survive.
So in this sky over Omaha Beach, what does air dominance look like for an F-22?
It looks like control. The Bf-109s only see the parts of the fight right in front of them. I see all of it. I decide which formations live, which fighters get to make a pass on the bombers, and which ones disappear in a fireball before they even know I am there. Whether it is a 1940s Bf-109 or a modern frontline fighter, the idea is the same. First to see, first to shoot, first to survive. The Raptor is designed to be that jet. And in 1944, that means the sky belongs to us.
You are seeing now is something nobody in 1944 could even imagine. A modern NATO destroyer sitting off the Normandy coast, firing Tomahawk missiles and naval gunfire into German positions. Yeah, this is a 21st century warship dropped into the middle of Operation Overlord. It is watching the same beaches, the same bunkers and artillery that the Allies fought through in '44, but with weapons that can reach deep inland and hit with surgical precision. For people watching, what exactly is a Tomahawk in this context? Because this is not just another artillery shell.
Right. A Tomahawk is a long-range cruise missile. Think of it as a pilotless aircraft packed with guidance systems and a warhead. The destroyer launches it from vertical tubes, it climbs out, levels off, and then flies toward the target, hugging the terrain. In 1944, they had to sail ships dangerously close to shore and pour thousands of shells at one area. Here, a single Tomahawk can thread its way to a specific bunker, ammo dump, or artillery battery and just remove it.
How does this compare to the kind of naval fire support the Allies actually had on D-Day?
In 1944, battleships and cruisers used heavy guns, 15-inch, 8-inch, 5-inch shells, and they relied on spotters, binoculars, and radio corrections from troops on the beach. Devastating, but not always precise.
This destroyer still has naval guns, but now the fire control is computerized. Radars, GPS, digital maps. Each shot is calculated, corrected, and tracked in real time. And when they mix gunfire with Tomahawks, you get both volume and precision. Bunkers, flak batteries, radar sites, command posts, each can be individually targeted instead of just that hill over there.
What kind of difference does that make for the soldiers and sailors in 1944?
It changes the opening hand of the battle. A lot of the German plan depended on coastal guns, artillery and strongpoints, slowing the landings. If a modern destroyer can decapitate those positions before the landing craft even hit the surf, the assault teams come ashore with fewer machine gun nests firing, fewer artillery pieces still alive, and fewer ships under threat.
So the time travel twist is not just cool visuals, it is fundamentally rewriting the risk the Allies faced on those first waves.
Exactly. Instead of fighting through fully operational batteries, the assault teams are hitting positions that are already burning or silent.
From the German side, what would this even look like? How do you think coastal defenders would perceive a Tomahawk strike?
To them, it would feel supernatural. You would see this low, fast object streaking in, no pilot, no propeller, and then a bunker just disappears. Their radar and sound range systems were built for aircraft and ships, not missiles coming in low and fast with almost no warning. Same with the destroyer itself. The silhouette, the electronics, even the way the guns track would look alien. They would have no idea what its range is, how many missiles it has, or how to jam it. By the time they are trying to understand it, half their coastal network is already gone.
Let's talk about the bigger picture. If a modern NATO task force is thrown back into 1944, how much do you change? Do you just support Normandy, or do you try to end the entire war early?
That is the hard question. You could try to steam straight for key ports, bomb rail hubs, even go after command centers deep inland, but every aggressive move risks changing the timeline in ways nobody understands. In our mission, we keep it focused, secure the beaches, shield the fleets and bombers, and make sure D-Day succeeds with minimal Allied losses. We are not trying to redesign the whole war. We are trying to make sure that this one decisive day is not lost.
You ever think about the paradox angle? Like, if you save too many people or change too many events, do you risk erasing your own future? You cannot fly a fighter while doing time travel math in your head. But yeah, the thought is there. Every bunker we flatten, every artillery unit we erase, might mean someone lives who was supposed to die, or vice versa. So we work inside a narrow mission rule. Protect the invasion, reduce unnecessary losses, but do not go hunting history just because we can. The goal is not to rewrite the story. The goal is to keep the darkest outcome from happening.
Back to the destroyer for a moment. How is it actually finding targets in 1944? There are no GPS satellites for the Tomahawks to talk to, no digital maps from this era.
That is where our NATO force improvises. We have our own navigation systems and stored terrain data from the future, so the destroyer can still build accurate coordinates for where we know those bunkers and batteries are. Then aircraft like my F-22 and drones we brought with us can update that picture with real-time reconnaissance. So you get this strange loop. Future sensors mapping a past battlefield in real time, feeding targets to a ship that did not exist yet to destroy bunkers that did exist. Also, the soldiers on the beach can move a few yards more safely.
How does the destroyer's firepower play with what the air assets are doing? The B-1, the F-18s, F-15s, your F-22?
We divide the work. The destroyer and its Tomahawks focus on fixed, hardened positions, bunkers, artillery parks, command posts. The A-10s chew up flak and light guns. The B-1 and F-18s handle the tough targets that survive those first waves. The F-15s and F-22s keep the lift to offer off the bombers. It is layered. From the shoreline out to the bomber stream, every piece of Nazi firepower is under pressure from something: ship, bomber, or fighter. The destroyer is the heavy hand that keeps smashing anything that tries to reform on the coast.
General quarters, all hands man your battle stations. Set material conditions even throughout the ship. Make Z report to DC Central.
Clear the flight deck. Prepare for engine start.
Maintaining visual on personnel. Radio check. 1, 2.
So if you step back and look at this, from Tomahawks over Normandy to stealth jets guarding bombers, what does defeating the Nazi Empire via the Normandy invasion look like with NATO dropped into the story?
It looks like the Allies getting the breathing room they needed much earlier and with fewer losses. Air superiority guaranteed. Coastal defenses shattered faster. Supply lines and artillery taken apart before they can bleed the beachheads dry. But the core is the same. You still need soldiers on the sand, ships bringing them in, and people willing to fight through the hedgerows. The future can help break the teeth of the defenses, but the heart of the victory is still the same men on those landing craft, now just a little less alone.
We have been watching F-18s launching from the deck of a very familiar silhouette, the Harry S. Truman, a modern American aircraft carrier that was never meant to sit off the coast of Normandy. Right now, that ship is a floating airbase, throwing strike fighters into the sky to finish the German bunkers the B-1 did not quite kill. For people watching, this is what power projection really looks like. A single carrier like this brings its own airport, fuel farm, weapons depot, and command center wherever the fleet needs it. On D-Day, that means right here off Utah Beach. From a pilot's perspective, it is a launch factory. Catapults, arresting wires, elevators recycling jets from the hangar to the deck. The crew moves aircraft like a living machine, one launch every few seconds until the entire strike package is airborne. Talk us through what it feels like to launch in an F-18 from a carrier like this. You get chained down on the catapult, engines up, the whole jet straining against the whole back. There's a quick final check, then you feel this solid kick as the catapult throws you from 0 to flying speed in a couple of seconds. The deck drops away, the ocean fills your windscreen for a heartbeat, then you climb and join the rest of the strike group. And on this day in 1944, the strike group has a very specific job. Exactly. The B-1 already smashed most of the heavy bunkers. Our F-18s are going in to clean up the survivors, the stubborn positions that are still firing on the beaches and the approaches.
What makes the F-18 such a good choice for that bunker cleanup her? The F-18 is a true multi-role jet. It can dogfight, it can escort, and it can drop precision bombs on coordinates or laser spots. For these bunkers, we treat it like a scalpel with afterburners. Targeting pods under the fuselage, smart weapons on the wings, and a pilot who can see the target both through the glass and through the sensors. So, compared to the World War II dive bombers that originally flew here, what is the difference? Back then, pilots had to dive steeply, eyeball their release, and hope the bomb fell close enough. With the F-18, you can cue an AGM-65 Maverick onto a specific bunker, bring the seeker video up on the cockpit display, and lock the crosshairs right on the firing slit or gun position. Once it has a solid lock, you pickle. The missile comes off the rail and its own TV or infrared seeker flies it the rest of the way in. Less guesswork, fewer wasted weapons, and a much higher chance that bunker never gets a second chance.
Tell us a little about the German positions we are seeing blowing up in the background here.
The Germans tied everything together. Concrete bunkers with artillery pieces, machine gun nests in trenches, and observation posts spotting for guns farther inland. Some of those casements mounted heavy guns that could reach out toward the ships.
Others had smaller weapons that swept the sand with fire. If you leave even a handful intact, they can still bleed the beachhead. So the F-18 strikes are about more than just one bunker at a time. Right, we are trying to break the network, kill the surviving strongpoints, knock out the remaining artillery, and blind any German observers who are still calling in fire on the landing zones.
Walk us through a typical attack run. We are seeing here that F-18 rolling in on the coast. The jet comes in at altitude and uses the targeting port to pick out the bunker that survived the B-1's JDAMs. I slave an AGM-65 Maverick to the pod, bring the seeker video up on the cockpit display, and walk the crosshairs right onto the firing slit or gun position. Once the seeker has a good lock, I ease into a shallow attack angle, pickle the missile, and then immediately start climbing away while the Maverick flies itself in. Then from the ground, there is just a moment of silence before the hit. Exactly. A flash, the bunker roof lifts, and the position either collapses inward or becomes a burning wreck. When you see multiple F-18s working together like you do in this scene, you get a ripple effect. One bunker, then another, then the secondary ammo stores and gun pits start going up.
How does the carrier keep that tempo going, with jets constantly launching and recovering in this time-warped version of D-Day?
That is the carrier air wing's magic. While one group is attacking, the deck crew is refueling, rearming, and launching the next wave. Ordnance teams are loading more precision weapons. Maintenance teams are checking the jets as soon as they trap. It becomes a cycle, sortie after sortie, until there are simply no more targets that can fire back.
In 1944, the Allies had to rotate ships and aircraft back and forth to keep up the pressure. With a modern carrier group, that pressure can stay constant.
Yes, and that constant pressure is what breaks a defense. If every time a German crew tries to man a gun, another F-18 rolls in on them, eventually they stop being a threat and start being survivors.
From a timeline point of view, does it ever hit you that the Harry S. Truman and its air wing were never meant to exist in this era?
All the time.
You look down and see Higgins boats and Sherman tanks, then you look back at the carrier and see a nuclear-powered ship with modern radar arrays and jet fighters on the deck. It feels like two chapters of a history book colliding on the same page. Yet the mission is exactly the same. Protect the landing, take the teeth out of the defenses, and make sure those troops on the beach have a fighting chance to push inland. The tools change, the sentry changed, but that part never does. As the F-18s finish off the last bunkers along this stretch of coast, what changes on the ground for the Allied forces? The biggest change is freedom of movement. Without those surviving bunkers and guns, units can move off the sand without being shredded every time they cross open ground. Engineers can clear obstacles, medics can work, supply lines can start to stabilize.
And for the ships just offshore?
They can close in or reposition without worrying about a hidden gun suddenly reaching out and punching holes in a transport or a destroyer. Once the last bunker goes quiet, the whole shoreline becomes a lot less lethal.
What happens if the bunker crew tries to relocate or move a gun at the last second?
If they move a truck or a gun out in the open, honestly, they just make it easier. The Maverick can lock onto contrast, vehicles, gun positions, even hotspots from engines or fires. If they leave cover and start running, now they are in the open with a missile already inbound and more jets overhead watching.
What you are seeing now is something that absolutely should not work. A C-17 Globemaster III lining up to land on the deck of HMS Queen Elizabeth in heavy seas off Normandy. With the fighters and flak gone, the mission has shifted. Keep the front line supplied.
Yeah, this is full on. Do not try this at home flying. The C-17 can do short field landings on rough strips, but a pitching carrier deck in 1944 is another level. The pilots are timing the swells, matching the deck movement, and putting a massive airlifter onto a moving runway.
For folks listening, what is the C-17 normally built to do?
It is a strategic and tactical airlifter. Big cargo bay, high wing, powerful engines, and the ability to land on short, semi-prepared runways. It can move troops, vehicles, pallets, and then turn around and airdrop that cargo right where ground forces need it. In this timeline, we are using it as a flying lifeline for the troops pushing inland from the beaches.
So it claws onto this carrier deck, the seas are rough, everything is moving. What happens next?
The second it's chained down, the clock starts. Deck crews and loadmasters are rushing to swap loads. Ammo, medical supplies, fuel, whatever the front line is screaming for. You see forklifts and pallet trains weaving under the wings, cargo rolling straight into the bay while the ship is pitching under their feet.
In the scene now, the cargo doors open and we can see the ground below through the ramp. How does the actual airdrop work? At the green light, the locks release and the cargo starts rolling toward the open ramp. Some bundles use chutes that drag them out, others are pushed by gravity and the motion of the jet. Parachutes bloom behind the aircraft and those pallets float down into fields, tree lines and pre-marked drop zones where Allied units are waiting. To the soldiers on the ground, it looks like supplies falling out of the sky from some future they will never see. And all of this is only possible because the anti-aircraft and fighter threat has been wiped away. Exactly. If the German flak and fighters were still out there, this C-17 would be a huge vulnerable target. The only reason it can fly this route, ramp open, steady over the drop zone, is because the A-10s, F-18s, F-15s, F-22s, and that destroyer have already torn the teeth out of the defenses. And that is where we will leave you. From Black Hole to Beachhead, from BF-109s to Raptors and Tomahawks, and finally a C-17 dropping hope out the back ramp. You have been listening to our journey through a very different D-Day. Thanks for flying along. Century to century, mission to mission, the tools change, but the fight for freedom does not. We will see you in the next episode.